नहीं, अगर कोई सॉल्यूशन एसिडिक होगा ना, और अगर उसमें आपने लेट्स से, अच्छा चलो वो भी छोड़ो, बफर की डेफिनेशन अगर आप देखो ना, तो बफर्स डेफिनेशन इज प्रीटी सिंपल एंड स्ट्रेट फॉरवर्ड. Buffer is any substance that resists changes in pH when small amounts of acids or alkalis are added to that solution. ठीक है, मतलब क्या हुआ कि अगर फॉर एग्जांपल एक सॉल्यूशन है, you want to keep its pH constant, okay, you want to keep its pH at let's say 4, okay, pH, you want the pH to be 4. Now what you do is you add a buffer which maintains the pH at 4. Now in that solution, for example, if you start adding an acid, what will the acid do? Will it reduce the pH? It will definitely reduce the pH, right? Because it's an acid. But the buffer will not allow the acid to reduce the pH as easily, okay? It will resist this change in pH. It will still maintain the pH at that constant level. And this maintenance is going to continue to a certain limit, okay? After which the pH will fall, okay? If the concentration of acid which is added, it exceeds a certain amount. Okay, if it exceeds the capacity of the buffer to resist. So buffer is actually anything that keeps that tries to keep the temperature, the pH constant. ठीक है?
ठीक है, got it. ठीक है, बस यही थे मेरे तो क्वेश्चंस.
ठीक है, अब यार मुझे थोड़ा ऑर्गेनिक केमिस्ट्री भी पढ़ाना था आज, ठीक है, तो आगे पढ़ लेते हैं अभी थोड़ा सा. तो अच्छा, ऑर्गेनिक केमिस्ट्री कल हमने स्टार्ट ले ली थी फंडामेंटल्स से, ठीक है. अब हम करेंगे आगे उसकी क्लासिफिकेशन. अच्छा, बिफोर क्लासिफिकेशन, क्या नाम है, मोमिन, क्या यहाँ तक सब कुछ क्लियर है?
Yes, sir. Sure.
Now, organic compounds are broadly divided into two categories. Okay. First category is cyclic compounds, or you could call them ringed compounds, or you can also call them closed chain compounds. The second category is the opposite. It's called the open chain compound. Or also known as acyclic compounds. Now these open chain can also be of further two types. They may be straight chain or they may be branched. If you look at the cyclic compounds can have two categories as well. They may be homocyclic. Homocyclic means a ring having similar atoms in it, meaning a ring which is composed only of carbon atoms. These homocyclic compounds are also known as carbocyclic compounds. Carbocyclic means carbon atoms are forming the cyclic structure, the ring. Or the second category is heterocyclic, meaning you have more than one type of atoms in the ring. Heterocyclic, directly involved in the ring. Okay. Now, the homocyclic can be of further two types. They may be aromatic compounds, meaning compounds which are derivatives of benzene ring. Okay. Or they may be alicyclic compounds. Alicyclic are actually cyclic compounds, but they do not have a benzene ring. Okay, compounds which are cyclic but they are lacking benzene. Okay, so no benzene is in here. Benzene is present, so aromatic. Benzene is absent, so alicyclic. Okay. Heterocyclic compounds, whereas on the other hand, heterocyclic compounds could be of two types. They may be saturated compounds or unsaturated compounds. Okay, what do we mean by saturated? Saturated means carbon-carbon single bonds are there only, no double bonds are there. Whereas unsaturated means they have both single bonds as well as double bonds. Now these unsaturated compounds which have both single and double bonds, they can be of further last two types. These unsaturated compounds may also be aromatic compounds, or they may be non-aromatic compound. Now you don't call them alicyclic, okay? Call them non-aromatic for heterocyclic structures. Alicyclic is only for homocyclic structures, okay? Please keep that in mind. Alicyclic is for those rings which have carbon atoms only in the ring, but the ring is not benzene. Whereas non-aromatic is for those rings which do not have carbon atoms only, but rather have carbon atoms as well as some other atom in the ring, and they are still they are still not aromatic. Okay, they still do not resemble benzene. There's a rule known as Huckel's rule, which is used for testing the aromaticity of a compound. Okay, we'll talk about that later on. But this is the entire classification of organic compounds. Okay, they may be cyclic or they may be ring, closed chain or open chain. Okay, the open chain are pretty simple. They is just straight or branch. The closed chain, on the other hand, are homocyclic or heterocyclic. Homocyclic means having the same compounds, same atoms, actually carbon atoms in the ring, whereas heterocyclic means having more than one types of carbon atoms, more than one types of atoms in the ring. Okay, you may have carbon, you may have nitrogen, you may have sulfur, you may have any other atom that you want. Okay, so but at least two different types of atoms must be present in the ring in order to call it heterocyclic compound. Heterocyclic compounds may be all having only single bonds or double bonds. Okay, the heterocyclic compounds which do have double bonds, they may be aromatic or non-aromatic. Meaning, okay, how do we determine the aromaticity of heterocyclic compounds? Because you cannot have benzene ring in heterocyclic